A messy lab, a forgotten petri dish, and a little bit of mold. From this simple scene in London, a chain of events began that would save more lives than almost any other medical breakthrough of the 20th century. This is the story of Alexander Fleming and the discovery of penicillin. You're watching Historals X, where we explore how scientists in the UK, USA, France, and beyond changed war and peace. Today, we'll see how a Scottish doctor's curiosity and later, a massive Allied effort during World War II turned a strange lab accident into the world as first widely used antibiotic. Alexander Fleming was born in Scotland in 1881 and later moved to London to study medicine. He served in the Royal Army Medical Corps during World War I, treating wounded soldiers. On the battlefield, Fleming saw so many men die not directly from their wounds, but from infections bacteria getting into the body through bullet holes and shrapnel injuries. Back then, there were no modern antibiotics. Doctors used antiseptics, but these often damaged healthy tissue and weren't always effective deep inside the body. Fleming came back from the war determined to find a better way to fight infection. He joined St. Mary's Hospital in London as a researcher, studying bacteria and the body's own defenses. Fleming was known for having a pretty untidy laboratory. In 1928, just before going on holiday, he left several petri dishes with bacteria cultures on his bench. When he came back, he started sorting through them. On one plate, he noticed something really unusual. A spot of blue-green mold had grown, probably from spores that just drifted in. But around the mold, the bacteria had been killed, creating a clear zone in the otherwise cloudy plate. Now, a lot of researchers would have just thrown the contaminated dish away, but Fleming didn't. He was curious. He isolated the mold and discovered it belonged to the genus Penicillium. Whatever this mold was making, it seemed to kill bacteria. He called the substance penicillin. Fleming tested penicillin against different kinds of bacteria and found it was powerful against many harmful types, including those that caused wound infections and some forms of pneumonia. In 1929, he published a paper describing what he'd found. He suggested penicillin could be a useful antiseptic or even a treatment for infections. But there was a big problem. Penicillin was really hard to extract and it wasn't stable. Fleming wasn't a chemist, and the technology at the time made it almost impossible to purify the compound in large, reliable amounts. For years, his discovery remained mostly a lab curiosity. Some colleagues were interested, but most of the medical world just didn't see its potential. Fleming moved on to other work, but he never completely forgot about that strange mold. Then, in the late 1930s, with World War II on the horizon, a team at Oxford University decided to take another look at penicillin. This group included Howard Florey and Ernst Chain, researchers with serious skills in chemistry and pharmacology. They worked to purify penicillin and test it in animals. The results were incredible. Penicillin could cure severe bacterial infections in mice. The next step was human trials. In 1941, they treated a policeman with a life-threatening infection. At first, he got better really quickly, but they didn't have enough penicillin to complete the treatment, and he later died. This made one thing crystal clear: penicillin could be a miracle drug, but only if someone could figure out how to produce it on a massive scale. As World War II raged on, both the British and American governments saw penicillin's potential for saving wounded soldiers. British labs, working under the threat of air raids and with few resources, did crucial early work. But to get to industrial levels, they needed more capacity. That's where the United States, with its huge manufacturing power, became essential. American and British scientists teamed up to find better strains of penicillium that produced more penicillin, develop new fermentation methods to grow the mold in giant tanks, and improve purification techniques. There's a famous story about how one team member found a super-productive mold variant on a moldy cantaloupe in an American market. By D-Day in 1944, Allied factories were making enough penicillin to treat countless wounded soldiers. Deaths from bacterial infections in field hospitals dropped dramatically compared to World War I. Penicillin became known as the miracle drug. In 1945, the Nobel Prize was awarded jointly to Alexander Fleming, Howard Florey, and Ernst Chain for their work. Fleming warned early on that misusing antibiotics like taking too little for too short a time could lead to bacteria becoming resistant. He was right. Today, antibiotic resistance is a huge global problem. Even so, it's hard to overstate penicillin's impact. It totally transformed medicine, making once deadly infections treatable and opening the door for many other antibiotics. Fleming stayed a modest man. He often said he didn't invent penicillin, he just discovered what nature had already made. The story of penicillin is often told as a lucky accident. But it's more than that. It's a perfect example of the saying, chance favors the prepared mind. The mold landing on the plate was chance. But noticing its effect, caring about it, and thinking about what it meant, that was all Fleming's preparation and curiosity. And later, it took teamwork across countries, especially Britain and the United States, to turn that observation into a life-saving medicine during World War II. From a forgotten petri dish in London to field hospitals in North Africa and Normandy, penicillin changed the course of medicine and war. If you want more true stories where science and conflict intersect, subscribe to Histral's X, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments. Do you think penicillin was more important in war or in peace? Thanks for watching.